Hello, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm a co-contributor for Puffer Finance. Very honored to be here today. Today, we brought out 4 amazing panelists to share their unique perspective about Ethereum. Everybody knows Justin Drake. According to him, Ethereum's future is too bright that we need sunglasses. I got you covered today, everyone. I prepared.
Yay, second pair of sunglasses.
Let's go.
Sunglasses.
Are we going to wear
Got
them?
it?
I'll wear the second one, yeah.
You got it?
Oh, Austin's already on it. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, we're all protected to get ready for the bright future. So, first question. Please introduce yourself to the audience today, who you are and what you are focusing on. Who wants to start first? Amir?
Yeah, thank you. It's very exciting to see like a great community of Ethereum coming together at EDCON this year. Tokyo has definitely been amazing. Amir, I'm one of the co-founders at Puffer. We believe one of the prerequisites to creating a great ecosystem, a great protocol is decentralization. That's where we started our protocol to actually make running Ethereum validators more viable and give a fair chance to at-home stakers and decentralized operators to be able to compete with liquid staking and other liquid restaking protocols. Therefore, we created the first permissionless liquid restaking protocol to make running an Ethereum validator more viable. Later on, based on that, to actually making running Ethereum validators even more viable, we introduced based rollups and base sequencing, which takes advantage of this credibly neutral set of validators to sequence the future of rollups. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that today, and very happy to be on this panel and see you guys. Justin?
Hey, I'm Justin, Ethereum researcher. Traditionally, I've focused on the layer 1, but now in the last few months, I've spent some time basically looking at infrastructure that is shared amongst the L2s, trying to address fragmentation of L2s. And one piece of infrastructure that I'm especially interested in is the sequencing layer and shared sequences. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the panel.
Hey, everyone. I'm Scott, co-founder of Gitcoin, community for funding public goods, largely within Ethereum, but also more broadly within real-world ecosystems, local communities. More recently, I've been doing a lot of research into plurality as part of public works, which is just a kind of catch-all for work on governance advisory in the context of that kind of collaboration across difference and kind of mechanism design for new types of public goods funding.
I'm Austin Griffith. I founded the Build Guild. We focus on developer tooling, education, and grant giving. We have speedrunethereum.com, Scaffold ETH, and then we give grants out to new builders, and we're trying to nurture the ecosystem and bring in more developers.
Great. So my first question to Justin. 5 months ago, you attended an episode with Bankless, Fixing Ethereum's Fragmentation with Justin Drake. I listened to that episode many times, learned a lot. Thank you very much. So today, can you tell the audience what base rollup is and why it is important? And we heard about JK rollups, OP rollups, now base rollups. What's the differences between them and why base rollup can make Ethereum's future very bright? We have to wear sunglasses to protect ourselves.
Right, so rollups is all about scaling Ethereum, but in the process of scaling, in the process of adding quantity, in some sense, we've lost a little bit of quality. And the quality that we've lost is some of the composability. So every L2 is its own silo, and we have this asynchronous communication between the rollups, and this is slow asynchronous communication. So for example, if you want to withdraw funds from Arbitrum or withdraw funds from Optimism, that is going to take about 1 week. Now, the idea of base sequencing is to try and reunify the rollups, and specifically by looking at who has the right to create the next block. And that is basically called the sequencer. And it turns out that if you have multiple rollups that each share the same sequencer in the next slot, that sequencer can do magic. And the magic is called a super block. So it's a block that simultaneously encompasses multiple L2 blocks. And within the super block, you can have synchronous composability. Now, you do need another thing in order to get the synchronous composability, which is real-time proving, which is a cryptographic breakthrough, which we are almost there with the engineering.
Thank you. Then my next question is to Amir. We all know Puffer is a liquid restaking protocol, and recently launched the Puffer Unify, a based roll-up service. Can you talk about it and the reason why and the progression?
Of course. Like Justin mentioned, actually, to achieve the best shared sequencer to achieve this synchronous composability is Ethereum itself, Ethereum validators on the L1 itself. What we have a lot of at Puffer is permissionless and decentralized set of Ethereum validators. Some of these folks are at-home stakers that can also take advantage of sequencing these future rollups. And that's what made sense for us in terms of like the next step, the next service to provide to our permissionless decentralized operators. On top of that, we are also introducing this concept of also native yield, that all of these rollups, that app chains that build using Unify can take advantage of and provide better UX for the users, for the dApp developers to actually come in and create this ecosystem of based rollups.
Got it. Thank you. So my next question is to Austin. According to Justin and Amir, that based rollup promised to help address Ethereum's fragmentation issues from a liquidity and user point of view. So Austin, how do you developers tool work on based rollups?
Thankfully, anything that's EVM compatible, Scaffold ETH runs on. So basically, it's just about pointing it at that new network and it'll deploy. And like you said, you get a lot of liquidity from L1 out of the box by using this based rollup. But the tools like Scaffold ETH, Speedrun Ethereum, we have state-of-the-art EVM tooling, and you can point it at mainnet, you can point it at an L2, or you can point it at one of these based rollups. It's just exactly the same in terms of what commands the developer has to run. So you just point it at the network and fire away, and it works.
Okay. So my next question to Scott. We all know you focus on public goods. So we have a very broad audience today here. Could you tell everyone what public good is and why it is important in crypto? We should care about it. And in terms of the technology that based rollup we're talking about today, how that's gonna affect the public goods fundraising?
So I'm personally really interested in anything that solves coordination problems, because public goods funding is fundamentally a coordination problem. So when it comes to these kinds of sequencer models, I think it's really interesting in the sense that we might be able to start focusing more on the core research and sort of the core community as one thing with these kinds of approaches versus kind of fragmentation across many, many different, often very separate, often very kind of distinct communities. And I think that's an important thing to have as we start to scale Ethereum. I think it's an important thing to have as we start to scale the community, because eventually, imagine 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, which is often the scale, you know, even 100 years that these kinds of public goods problems are measured on, you're going to be in a position where people might not even, you know, necessarily remember what Ethereum is if there's just one monolithic, you know, roll up that is you know, branded in a certain way, that has a certain sort of like community that is sort of taking over mindshare. So to me, I think what's really interesting about like this approach is that it actually kind of blends the right balance of giving people the option to still be part of that scaling journey while also making it easy for them to still really integrate and be part like more deeply of the Ethereum community. So that's like high level, just to tie it into the technology. But specifically on the public goods funding piece, I would say what I'm most excited about is any coordination problem or public goods funding problem is basically just about trying to get people funding for some shared need that otherwise wouldn't be solved by the market, that wouldn't be solved by just a private company. And there's many of these types of libraries, these tools in Ethereum that are already being funded by sequencer fees, for example, in the Optimism ecosystem. And I think we should see a lot more of that. And I think things like Ethers.js or things like client development or things like new types of even primitives for staking could, in theory, be in that category of things that could be funded by these sequencer fees over time. And that would be a really interesting kind of sustainable approach to public goods funding, whereas usually right now we're sort of reliant on donations from the community, which is sometimes really great in good times and sometimes really rough in bad times.
One small comment here is that I agree with everything, but one small comment is the term sequencer fee is a little confusing because it is indeed the sequencer that is collecting the fees, but the value creation is actually the chain itself. So I think a better term is congestion fees. And if you look at any roll-up today, you know, Optimism, Arbitrum, Base, if they were to change their sequencer to be one that they don't control, they would still be collecting the so-called sequencer fees. And so, yeah, congestion fees, I think, better describes the concept.
I'm going to take that term.
So my next question is to everybody. In your working domain, what is the biggest pain point? You know, we all have the pain point. However, we still believe, we still have the passion for the future, whatever you are working on. And that is something drives us going. And that is something that we believe there's going to be a bright future that makes us wear sunglasses to protect ourselves. So what is that? Biggest pinpoint and what still drive us going for the bright future?
So in order to get this united chains of Ethereum where we bring everyone together, we need to solve two things. One is the cryptography and the real-time snark proving. And in some sense, this is just technology, and it's happening at an increasingly fast pace, this exponential rate. Just a few days ago, the RISC-0 team told me that they can prove the average EVM block on L1 in 15 seconds. So it's extremely, extremely fast, and it's getting close to this real-time proving. And also a few days ago, the Starkware team experimented with GPU acceleration, and maybe they can get something like 100x their current benchmarks, and their current benchmarks are already extremely good, on the order of 1 million hashes proven per second, which is really, really good on a laptop. Now, the second big problem that we need to solve, and I think that is the true pain point, is human coordination, right? Because we want to have this shared sequencer, and the question becomes, which shared sequencer do we want? And there's many different L2 shared sequencers. There's the Optimism shared sequencer, the Arbitrum shared sequencer, there's the Polygon one, and there's also projects that are dedicated to sequencing, like Espresso. But one of the problems is credible neutrality. How can, for example, Arbitrum agree to opt in to the optimism shared sequencer if they're direct competitors, and vice versa. And so I think we need to find a credibly neutral shared sequencer that doesn't introduce a new token, that doesn't introduce a new brand or a new security assumption. And the only one that fulfills this criteria is Ethereum itself. And this is where the base sequencer meme comes from, because we're reusing the base layer, the L1, for sequencing.
Yeah, I think that's like, I fully agree with this. I think that's pretty much the fundamental problem right now, is just trying to figure out how to reduce that fragmentation. Because in the community right now, you have people trying to figure out, should they spend time in Ethereum at all? There's some people trying to, spend time in other random ecosystems, which I think are less values aligned and have less sort of emphasis on the sort of decentralized ecosystem values that we actually care about. The general vibe of Ethereum now, though, is that you're having to choose between one of these many different communities, and from a community participation perspective, that's very confusing. So I think people need to be able to really align around one thing, just because any kind of culture, any kind of value system really should be focused in on, something like a core ethos. And I think Vitalik's post around making Ethereum cypherpunk again is maybe what I would say is the best source of truth on some of these questions about what those values might be. No one's really, the arbiter of this, but I think if we can get some of those embedded into the eventual sort of solution that we decide on technically here, then that could be a really great outcome for everyone.
And I think at the app layer, I think we're at a really special time right now. Speaking of being optimistic and so bright, we have L2s, right? So now we have faster and cheaper transactions. We have smart contract wallets, and we still have some work to do around those smart contract wallets, but we're getting account abstraction, L2s. Things are finally coming together at the app layer where I think it's a lot easier, and we're getting to the point where we can bring a lot more people on chain and more types of apps can run on chain. I think the problem, though, is, other than that smart contract UX stuff, I think the unclear regulation territory is a little bit of a problem. And I think that developers are afraid to deploy privacy apps. Developers are afraid to deploy apps that might become financialized and look bad to the SEC or whatever. So it's this really interesting point where the tech and the infra is there, and the app builders are there, and the users are coming on chain, and we're just a little bit worried about what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. So I think regulation is probably one of those pain points.
Yeah,
So, Amir?
Yeah, great point by Austin, actually. I'm sure we probably can talk about that for a little while, but probably I'll address the technical side of things. For us, we're addressing two sectors of the market, really, maybe even more. We have users that want to take advantage of the yield, the reward that Ethereum or other middleware providers provide, but don't have the knowledge of running the hardware themselves. That's on our staker sides. We wanted to give them cheaper transactions. Our job was to, okay, what do we do? Are we gonna go try and bet on a stack, an existing roll-up stack or L2 stack that is gonna be sort of winner take all and kind of opt into that centralized sequencer? Or can we have a better way to not go to this negative sum game where we create fragmentation and create these little islands of liquidity? That's where sort of the base rollups, this bright future of base rollups actually came to our mind. Not only we can address these expensive transaction issue for our stakers, but also we can give more job to the home stakers to do. Home stakers are always thought, if you look at crypto Twitter or other places, they're always thinking, oh, home stakers are getting pushed to the side, they're getting pushed to the side. This is one of our other main focuses. Give them more work to do, actually engage them more within Ethereum itself, and this is one of our efforts in actually engaging them more within this whole stack. So that's what we did.
Thank you, everyone. Austin mentioned regulations, SEC. That's my next question, actually. Are you ready for a little bit? Politics. So 2 days ago, Donald Trump went to Nashville, gave a speech in the Bitcoin conference. It's becoming a very important topic even for U.S. Presidential candidates. So, is this a bright or bleak for Ethereum's future? So, who wants to go first?
I'll take it. I'll take the bullet. I think I don't have a strong opinion on this, but I'm Canadian, so I see the U.S. as like the large elephant that is like basically sleeping like kind of above us in a sense, and that might just fall on us at any time. So I think from my perspective, maybe the only thing I'll say is that we shouldn't choose anything politically just based on financial potential returns. There's a lot of complexity in politics. There's a lot of potential outcomes that are good and bad from both, sort of outcomes, both options. But fundamentally, the US is just one country. There's an entire world that's using Ethereum, and I think we should try to abstract away as much as possible the choices we make and the way that we approach building communities to not worry about what those political outcomes are. Because if we really align ourselves with one party or another in all these different places, we're just going to increasingly get way more complexity in terms of the order of magnitude of the types of actors we have to address when we're creating new types of designs or new types of research questions for Ethereum in the future. And I think that's going to actually be a mistake that doesn't take 5 years or 10 years to play out, but it takes 50 years or 100 years for us to realize, oh, we probably shouldn't have really focused in on like this one country or this one party or this one ecosystem. We should have made Ethereum as credibly neutral and global as possible.
I would say probably as a protocol developer right now, which can always be under regulatory sort of like aspect of things, and we always have to account for these regulatory things. I'll see the bright side of this as, hey, we got big enough that the country with the biggest GDP in the world, their presidential candidates are like betting on this as a winning point. And I think that's huge. We already should be stoked about this because we made enough noise. We showed enough feasibility in the tech stack in what this can bring for the future of the financial ecosystem that they start talking about this. I already see this as a big win. I know it's just the start of the way, but we made enough noise. We actually proven track record that this thing can work and this thing can be the future. So it actually becomes a topic of like speech and the topic of engagement. And I believe this is just a good start. I do agree with you, like, yes, we shouldn't like go and like make his like choose parties or anything. But I just do appreciate it for the fact that it's getting enough attention and getting more mainstream, more retailers, more folks are coming into this, and this is what we needed, what we were asking for. Like, look at the technology, look at its feasibility, and eventually we'll convince everyone that this has a bright future and this is the direction we should go.
I mean, I've been in this space since 2013, and in the early days I was an entrepreneur building on top of Bitcoin, and as an entrepreneur it was tough. I tried opening a bank account, really, really tough. And so the speech that I saw from Trump just a few days ago was like, wow, like we are in new times. This is a new paradigm that we're entering. But yeah, having said that, the technology is neutral, right? We want to have as much credible neutrality as we can get. Just like the internet is a bipartisan topic, computers are a bipartisan topic. Blockchains should also be a bipartisan topic. And I think as Amir said, like we've reached this tapping point because we have enough size that the politicians start to care. And what I'm hoping will happen is that all the parties start being friendly to crypto, not just one party. And that is really the outcome that we should be striving for.
Austin?
I think it's good overall. I think it's bright. I think it's good that they're talking about it. I think American politics are really weird right now. I'm glad that they're talking about it, but it does kind of feel like, what was Trump's closing remarks? It felt like, like your crypto toy you're playing with. Like, we'll take care of your toy for you. He still, I don't think, gets it enough that he is actually paying attention to the ethos and understanding decentralization and credible neutrality. I think to him it's like still a money game that people are gambling on, right? So I think it's still going to take some time before even the politicians get it, but I'm glad that they're at least talking about it. I think that's good.
Okay, so now tell me something spicy. What is your hottest take about the Ethereum? Amir?
Ooh. I mean, I would say with the emergence of base rollups and especially pre-confirmations, like the speed of transactions on Ethereum and the speed of like finality is gonna like greatly improve for users. So my hottest take is like, what would be really the relevance of like a lot of other technologies and alt L1s that are coming out that are just coming out with the promise of fastness? If we would be able to actually like successfully deliver this. Yeah, that's my hottest take.
Justin?
I think my hottest take has to do with Ethereum's biggest competitor, which is Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin will get 51% attacked within a few years. I think Bitcoin is insecure, and the reason why this is relevant to Ethereum is that Bitcoin has taken that niche, right, of money, internet money, and in some sense, by having Bitcoin be attacked, it would lose the credible neutrality for BTC, the token, to become money, and that gives a big opportunity for Ether, the asset, to become even more money than it currently is.
Wow. Scott?
Perhaps ultrasound money. But I think I've already given some spicy takes. Like, I guess mine would be, I think we are becoming, we are a mainstream thing now, as Amir mentioned. We're a mainstream ecosystem. We have mainstream problems, but we're still a very insular community, and I think we should be more open to and more willing to fund real-world experiments. I think we should start to be focused on local first sort of community currencies. We should be focused on stablecoin payments in developing economies. We should be focused on as the EF's own program talks about, the next billion people. And I think if we start to do that, we'll get a lot more traction, but we'll also just have a more engaged community and discussion. And I think that's something that I haven't seen yet in terms of the amount of activity on-chain in these places relative to the sort of way that we promote the fact that we have this mainstream attention or adoption. And that, I think, we're starting to, shift tides on, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Austin?
I don't know what my spicy take would be. I think maybe kind of back at the application layer, I feel like I'm the least qualified person on this panel, but at the application layer, I think of my spicy take might be there aren't enough non-VC captured app product people. There's just a lot of smart contract engineers that write smart contracts, but they're not thinking about the end user using the smart contract. They're not doing all the other things that you need to do to actually have people use things and be on chain and actually, use a blockchain for what it's for. So I think my spicy take might be we're too focused on the smart contracts and we're too zoomed in, and we're not focused enough on products and people using those products and bringing mainstream audiences on chain.
Thank you. So my last question. Ethereum has been around for a while. At today's stage, if someone is interested to get involved with Ethereum, what is your suggestion how to start?
Speedrunethereum.com.
Also speedrunethereum.com.
All right.
Let's just show, I'm going to show Austin right now.
Get a Telegram account and DM me.
Street. Amir?
Exactly. Talk to Justin or Austin or Scott.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.